Doodle-doo-doo. Guys, Crypto with Dinny. And it's Dinny here. It's good to see yous on. Well, there's actually no one on at the moment. I'm just talking to myself. But there's one or two popping in. What's the crack? Crypto with Dinny here. Thought I'd jump on this evening and have a quick little chat to yous about current situation in the markets, what I think of it, what I think's going on, and just to hopefully help you position yourself and just get my perspective on it. You know the usual drill. Hit the like button, please. Give it a nice strong press. That's your daily exercise for the day. So I got some yoga in today, and I got my daily swim in. So I've had my daily exercise, but your daily exercise, all I ask is give it a nice little like. And if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe. If you're on Facebook, consider coming over to YouTube, because there's less scammers there, and that leads me into obviously discussing the scammers. They'll be impersonating me, they'll be DMing you. Please ignore them. It's a terrible part of going live on Facebook and having an Instagram account that anyone can replicate an account and call themselves Crypto with Dinny. So just be aware of that. I'll never reach out to any of you guys. If you want to work with me, go through my email, or you reach out to me. And but just be careful with the scammers, because I'd hate to think of anyone getting scammed out of their money thinking they're chatting to me. Anyway, all about the Fed, Dinny. Done my exercise. Yeah, I suppose we'll chat about the Fed. So Chairman Powell was chatting, and he says rates aren't going to move until, what did he say, March 22? So that'll settle the markets, that'll pump the money in, and let's go higher on the pump, which is kind of cool. So today I was doing a bit of consulting, and when I'm consulting with people, generally it's just helping them get a better understanding of Bitcoin, or it could be about their strategy, or it could be about the technical aspect of it. But one of the lessons that I like to try and teach people, Nikki, what's the story? Connor, Richard, Miles, Mark, good to see you on, lads. One of the things that I love to teach people is that, you know, when you've become a good crypto investor, you know when you're starting to harden up a little bit and starting to understand the markets a little bit, that if we get a 30% pullback, it excites you rather than scares you. When you're new and juvenile, you don't really understand crypto, and you just want the thing to keep going up, and you have to get really rich really easily, bear markets scare you. Price corrections make you feel bad. But as you mature as a crypto investor, you love these because you see them as opportunities. They're opportunities to increase your positions. They're opportunities to dollar cost average and to get more assets for your money. Okay? So, and that's always been my view on it. And obviously when people are newer, they can't understand that. It's like, you're an idiot. How do you get excited when the price goes down? Well, I get excited when the price goes down because for my euro, I get more of the assets. So right now, a couple of things are happening. One, I've been teaching people about, altcoins. All year I say, lads, be careful on alts. Like last year, Cardano was 5 cents. Ethereum was 150 quid. Not saying that these are bad protocols, but they're just so inflated and pumped at the minute that, when these crashes come, which they inevitably do, sometimes you've entered that once we go into a 30% crash and your alt crashes 50%, and then it doesn't quite get back up, and then there's another Bitcoin correction that pulls you down, and you're like almost getting back up to where you were, and then you're dragged down further. And that's just how altcoins can punish people when they're short-term thinking and trying to time markets. In regards to alts, I think there's bargains out there at the minute. Obviously, when people are newer, I'm just like, just buy Bitcoin, buy some Ethereum, and be patient, and you'll get very, very wealthy. Obviously, I have to say, not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor, but that's just how it works though. Anyway, but if you're to buy Chainlink today, if you're to buy Zilliqa today, like Zilliqa's back at pre-2021 prices, I think. It's back down to 5 cents it was. Could have even been lower, like. That you're literally able to go back in time. And, everyone's regretted of, I wish I coulda, woulda, shoulda. But then when they actual get the opportunity to coulda, woulda, shoulda, they're too afraid, like, ooh, it might go lower, I mightn't, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But that's the irony of it, that fortune favours the brave, and investors, the ones who get very wealthy, are the ones who buy the fear, who buy in the red. We buy red, we don't buy green. We dollar cost average in green throughout normal markets. And when there's big pullbacks and fear and everyone's like, oh, it could go lower, that's when we make our moves. And the market either rewards us or punishes us heavily, and that's how we manage our risk, and that's how it works. But it's very simple. If you have, this is how I'll quantify it to help you understand it. Okay. Let's just take Chainlink for instance. Chainlink is way down. Okay, I think it's undervalued. So you have two questions to ask yourself as an investor. And I'll go on to Bitcoin in a second, which I want to spend a little bit more time on. But I'll just try and help you guys to get your understanding of how to invest in an altcoin. So will Chainlink be here in 5 years' time? The answer is probably. It's not a certainty, but pretty likely it will be here in 5 years' time. So then the next question is, do you think it's going to get to a new all-time high within 5 years? Like, I'd say that's pretty much a no-brainer. Of course it is. Okay. And how far off is it from its all-time high at the minute? Oh, it's miles off it. All right. Well, maybe I want to own some of that. Because not only do I think it might just break its all-time high, I think it could hit triple figures within 5 years. All right, and that's how you quantify it. So regardless of the price you're picking up the asset at today, you're just thinking, is it going to be here in 5 years? And are more people or less people going to be in cryptocurrency? And more people obviously are going to be in crypto. Look at the news, look at the fundamentals. I invest in fundamentals rather than daily news. Daily news is okay, and like technicals. I don't really have any time for that because I'm an investor. I'm thinking 5 years ahead, I'm thinking 10 years ahead, I'm thinking 20 years ahead. And that's how the money is really made in these markets. You buy the fear and you think of the future rather than the present. What else have I got to say? I warned us on the scammers. I told you to do your daily exercise. If you haven't done your daily exercise yet, it's very simple. All right. Flex those guns. Warm up your finger and go and hit the like button for me. It's awesome. And guys, consider jumping onto YouTube. We've got a little crew on YouTube there. That's awesome. But I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel. Just because there's not as much scammers and hassle with all them on YouTube. So, I told you that. Guys, by the way, if you need help with your own portfolio, I do private consulting one-on-one working with people, how to build up the pension plan, how to build a retirement plan, how to build a speculation plan, how to manage it, the technicals, how to create cash flow and passive income. Through it, check out cryptowithdinny.com if you'd like to do that. And also, I might as well plug my free workshop. I do a free workshop to teach people how Bitcoin works, because Bitcoin's amazing. Changed my life, and it'll change everyone's life who takes the time to learn about it, because it's hard, sound money, and it rewards the patient. And but I teach that for free, guys. Check out the website www.cryptowithdinny.com, and you'll see when my next free workshop is coming up. So the macro setup, every month, inflation figures go a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. We're at 40-year highs now. This whole setup is for Bitcoin, okay? So Bitcoin was made for this. So everything that's happening outside, it looks good for crypto. At the moment, we're looking at Bitcoin's price going sideways and there's been a 30% crash. And as I say to you guys, that excites me, because I dollar cost average and I buy my Bitcoin. I didn't get to buy Bitcoin in the early days. I came here late. A little bit earlier than Michael Saylor, but not as early as you want to be. So I still dollar cost average in to try and build up my hodl position. And that's why these bear markets excite me, these crashes excite me, because for my euros, I'm thinking in Bitcoin, I'm getting more Bitcoin for my euros. That's why it's deadly. That's why it's exciting. And when you're trying to figure out, if you can, I like to think of that. You might have heard the expression, some people are on a Bitcoin standard. I'm partially on a Bitcoin standard in that I see Bitcoin as my long-term savings vehicle, all right? And I'm prepared to suffer daily volatility, weekly volatility, monthly volatility for that privilege. Because if it's a savings account, Bitcoin's my long-term savings account. So, it's probably a decade or more when I might want to draw down that money or use that money. And in a decade or more, it's a very simple question. Will the price that I paid for Bitcoin in a decade be more than it is today or less than it is today? And it's just math. You don't have to be a genius to realize, obviously, the price will be much, much higher. Okay? It's just physics. It's maths and physics, and that's all it is. So it's very simple. So if you have a longer term outlook, you can do what I call store a portion of your wealth on a Bitcoin standard, where you think in Satoshis and your goal is just to have more Satoshis. Satoshi is the smallest unit of Bitcoin, guys, just in case you don't know what a Satoshi is. One Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million units called Satoshis. But the goal every month is to have a little bit more Bitcoin or a few more Satoshis each month than I had the previous month. So you're always trying to build up that stack, that stash, and just in the realization that in a decade's time, whatever I'm able to accumulate at today's prices is going to be worth a hell of a lot more, etc. Check out this bad boy, having a little gemmy here. Now she's fairly watered down because it's sitting there for a while. People be giving out now because there's ice in it and a drop of ginger ale, but sure, I wouldn't be hardcore, lads. So that's the aim of the game, is to try and build up your Bitcoin position, build up your HODL position. And the reason why I'm on a Bitcoin standard is because in a decade's time, in 2 decades' time, Bitcoin will still be here. There's nothing else that I can say with certainty that will still be here. You know, any of the coins that some of you guys in the comments might be asking me, I haven't a fucking clue, they're high risk. Possibly not. You know, most startups fail. It's a 90% failure rate in the first 5 years, and it's 90% in the second 5 years as well. So I'd say probably won't be here in a decade's time, whatever you're talking about other than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the only one that's decentralized, immutable, and beyond human control. It's just a piece of software that's going through the whole world. No one is influenced. No one can turn it off. There's no single point of failure. So it's very, very different, and I classify it very different. And that's why I've built my retirement plan, built my pension plan around it, because it's with certainty I know it'll be here. There's only one risk to Bitcoin, and you know what it is? You don't. And the reason why you don't is because it's an unknown unknown. That's the only risk to Bitcoin. Is an absolute black swan, an unknown unknown. Just like the only, pretty much, you know, there's a risk of a meteor hitting the planet now and we all die. You know, you don't worry about that stuff. You don't not leave the house because you think an unknown unknown could happen. You just live your life and you get on with it and you manage the risk accordingly. But that's the only risk to Bitcoin at the moment, is an unknown unknown, which I deem as very, very, very low percentage risk. Other than that, the fundamentals are screaming at us every single day. There's a new bank. It was Commonwealth Bank there 2 weeks ago. German bank yesterday or the day before yesterday. They're opening up Bitcoin to their 50 million clients in Germany. Like, they're just more and more and more on-ramps into this thing. And when there's more and more on-ramps, what do you think happens to the network? It gets more and more participants. And that's why whatever Satoshis you're picking up today, well, in 2 years' time, there's going to be more people arguing over them because it's finite. Remember, there's a finite supply of Bitcoin. There's only 21 million. Okay, and there can only ever be 21 million, and no human can change that. And that makes it very, very special, because there's only 2 things in this world that are finite, that are truly finite. 2 things. One is our time. Our time is finite. No one knows how long we're getting. That's why you have to live happy, have the crack, enjoy the moment, not focus on the material stuff. And Bitcoin is the second thing. Everything else, we can create more of it. You know, humans can be incentivized to go after it, to create it, to invent it, to build it, to mine it, to find it, whatever. Okay? But Bitcoin and our time are the only 2 things that are finite. And that's why there's insane value in this thing. And that's why whatever Satoshis you've accumulated today, well, there's going to be more of the world looking for them in 5 years' time. Or even next year. There's 3 million new Bitcoin wallet addresses every week opening up. 3 million. That means 3 million more humans come in and start arguing over this finite thing, this scarce property. At the end of the decade, how many humans will be arguing over it? You know, at the end of the decade, there'll be half a Bitcoin produced every 10 minutes. So the whole world, 7 billion, maybe there'll be 8 billion of us then, will be arguing over half a Bitcoin. Alright? And that's why I see the value of this thing being undervalued today. And I continue to dollar cost average, and I suffer, fair enough. I lost 30% of my... If Bitcoin was my savings, I lost 30% of my savings 2 weeks ago. But as I explained to people, when Bitcoin was 10 grand, you know, that was the high. And I dollar cost average, and I bought my couple of Satoshis at 10 grand. And then it crashed to 7.5 grand, and I lost 30% of my money. And at the time, it was like, this hurts a little bit. But today, it wasn't a bad idea to sit in the sidelines and try and time the market. It was a great idea to buy Bitcoin at 10 grand. Just like when Bitcoin was 16 grand, I dollar cost averaged, and I exchanged some of my euros for some Satoshis, and I stacked them. And then Bitcoin pulled back to 12 grand. That was a great buy. It was a great decision, but at the time, the people who don't understand the asset or how to accumulate in a really volatile asset would be like, you idiot, you should have waited. We know it was going to go down. The irony is no one knows in the short term whether it's going to go up or down. And how I explain that is, Chris MM Crypto possibly one of the biggest traders on YouTube, a million followers, I think. You know, he was liquidating a 7.5 million trade. 7.5 million, liquidated. He's meant to know it all. Like, if he can't understand the short-term movements of this thing, what hope has us plebs? So that's why I never try to time the market. I continually buy the asset because I'm buying it for my future. I'm not buying it for today. It's investing. It's money that I don't need. It's money that I can afford to lose, and I don't need today or tomorrow. So I can sit on the capital. I can suffer the volatility with the belief that this thing is going to be worth a lot more. At the moment, most people don't understand Bitcoin. They don't understand how it works. And, you know, you've all the traditional FUD. It's a Ponzi scheme. Governments can ban it. And all the rest, like, all can be hacked. And it's just people haven't done the work. This is the beauty. If you're prepared to sit down and do the deep work and put the time into it and learn for yourself, as I teach people, there's not many people who've gone down that rabbit hole. Certainly not, you know, when you follow Twitter accounts of billionaires who've gone down the rabbit hole and came out the other side and said, yeah, it's overhyped. It's not Bitcoin, it's Ethereum, or not all that crypto stuff. It's going to zero. There's no value in it. I'm going back to buy more gold. You know, I struggle. There's only one account I know of, and I think he just uses it as publicity to misunderstand Bitcoin. But so anyone who's done the deep work comes to the conclusion that, oh my God, this thing's going to change the world. This is hard sound money that's immutable, unstoppable, and it's nowhere, but it's everywhere. It's digital value. It's true ownership. It's the only thing in the world you can actually own and can't be taken from you. You know, even your life can be taken from you, but your Bitcoin can't. So it's huge. It's revolutionary, and we don't understand it. Because we can't compare it to anything that exists, alright? Because as humans, we always try to understand stuff with stuff we already understand. And that's why we use analogies, are a great way to learn. But when a new technology comes around, like, we compare it to digital gold. And that's how I teach people on my workshop, is to help them understand that Bitcoin is digital gold. And it just gets them deep enough down the rabbit hole that they'll go and do deeper work. And for some people that's enough. They go, oh yeah, it is digital gold. It's just exact same as physical gold, but in a digital format, so it's much better. So it's obviously going to replace the physical, just like CDs were replaced by Netflix, just like the cloud replaced filing cabinets and all these other physical things that were replaced. But in the same breath, it's so much more than that. And it's just, we don't know what it is. We've nothing to compare it to, but it's hard to fathom how big it can be and the changes it can make in our world. Even, for instance, if you want to just use Bitcoin, the network. So I always talk about the asset. Let me have a sip of this whiskey here, lads. Throw a comment in there if you're enjoying this, lads. Get a glass there, lads. Come on, hold on, put the top on, don't pour it all over the beer. Get an L glass there, we'll have a drop, sure. If you can't have a bit of liquid gold, sure. I always talk about Bitcoin, the asset, okay? And the asset is amazing. But, like, we've Bitcoin, the network. Now, you may have heard me speak about this before. Bitcoin, the network, is insane. It's rails to move value. And our existing legacy system, we can move value. But like, companies pay 3% to move value, which for really large multinationals who operate on these tiny profit margins, if they can use Bitcoin's rails, they can reduce their charge from 3.5% to 0.00003%. Okay, 1,000 times cheaper by using Bitcoin's network. They don't have to touch the asset. They don't go to Bitcoin. Okay, there's companies, they're building products onto this stuff. Jack Mallers in Strike has done it. They've done it in El Salvador, where they can zip money anywhere in the world, and they're doing it instantly and for free. They just convert it to Bitcoin, zip it across the world, it settles instantly for free. They put it back to dollars. It's amazing. So that alone is going to change our whole world, like, because all the companies, if you offer any of these big multinationals, well, you can pay 3% or you can pay 1,000 times less. Do you think they would take you up on the opportunity to pay 1,000 times less in their charges because they operate on these such small profit margins? You know, you don't have to be a genius. But this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly. But that's why it's nice to front run all this. The technology is there. The technology is amazing. We don't have anything like it in the world. Okay, and humans only move towards technology. So here we go. That's why I think I'm positioning myself. I stack, I hodl, I dollar cost average. I've built a pension around Bitcoin. It means I don't have to worry about my future. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world now, a lot of confusion, a lot of anger. It's a difficult time in the world for everyone, myself included. And it's just hard to make sense of some of the things that are going on. They just don't make sense. Now, they might make sense to you, but we're all different. But the fact that I've built a Bitcoin pension just really gives me security, because it can't be taken from you. Okay, you can build a Bitcoin pension that you can't even access yourself. So it's beautiful, it's amazing, and it's everywhere, but it's nowhere. And but it's and I'm not saying give up your normal pension plan, but just, will your normal pension plan be here in 20 years' time? Will it? Like, you can't say with certainty that it will be, because we can see the cracks in our legacy system. We can see how much of a Ponzi scheme that it is. And, there's going to have to be some serious financial innovation for this thing to survive. And hopefully it does. But I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket. That's why I have an alternate plan. I have a Bitcoin plan, which is totally disconnected. It's not correlated to that system. And that system can collapse. And there's no counterparty risk with your Bitcoin pension plan. That's the beauty of this thing. And that's why many people, I was consulting with a fella today, and he's doing the exact same thing. Just building a Bitcoin pension alongside the regular one. Now, when I say Bitcoin, it doesn't have to be wholly Bitcoin. There's so much, we can take it. There's so much products within crypto that are amazing wealth generation products, from stable coins to DeFi and leveraging NFTs and all this sort of stuff, social tokens, and you can have exposure to all that really, really easy, just with a well-structured and correctly allocated portfolio. And it's super simple to do, and anyone can do it. If you need help, reach out to me. I'll book a consultation with me or do one of my workshops. But it's an amazing opportunity. Even, for instance, in a stable coin, you have 10,000 euros in the bank, it's getting you 0. Compared to a stable coin, you're earning 10% on it. Okay? So at the end of the year, you have 11 grand versus 10 grand in euros, 11 grand if it's in stablecoin. It's a no-brainer. Of course people are going to do this. Just most people haven't learned it yet. That's the beauty of the space. That's why I'm passionate about it. I'm very passionate about Bitcoin, because I know it can make people very wealthy, but I think it also makes a fairer world. There's less war. We're governed by maths and code instead of being governed by a select group of people. Anyway, we're getting philosophical, which is a word I can't even say. Bitcoin network is too slow. Most of the failures, or people think, are Bitcoin's disadvantages. They just haven't done the work on it. It's the immutability is where the value is. Bitcoin was never supposed to be the base settlement layer. That's why layer 2s are built upon it. And I'll just give you a little bit of thought-provoking. If you're to say, well, Bitcoin's too slow, there's this new technology, this new one, okay? Can that be hard sound money? Well, it can be, but it's technology. So in another month's time, there'll be a better, faster, quicker technology. Like Solana is now, it's all the rage. It's like, oh, Solana. But like in 2 or 3 years, there'll be a protocol behind Solana that we don't know about yet that will innovate and leverage better technology. It'll be faster than Solana. It'll be better than Solana. Does that mean that hard sound money, we can just keep changing our hard sound money every 2-3 years? No, not at all. It's the immutability is where the value is. And Bitcoin is the only protocol that's immutable, which means humans can't change it. Humans are in charge of Solana. Humans are in charge of Ethereum. Humans are in charge of Cardano. Humans are in charge of Polkadot. Humans are in charge of insert name. The value of Bitcoin, what separates it from all the other protocols, is that humans aren't in charge of it. Alright, that is the value. The value is the immutability. Anyway, we won't be arguing about which is best, because it's a silly argument. Just have exposure to them all, and that's how I teach in the bootcamp. By having 1 or 2% exposure to something like Solana, well, if it does indeed replace Ethereum, well, it'll move into a 30% position, if you had a weighting of, a whole 30% Ethereum, 50% Bitcoin, and then my alts and everything, tiny little percentages of these up-and-comers mean that if they do meet their end goal and they have success, remember, it's highly likely that they won't. That's why we buy a basket of them. We have like 1% of all these different protocols. So if this one works, well, this one is the rival. He'll probably fail, but he'll win. And if they do find success, well, the position in your portfolio will mean net you balance out and you win either way. That's what good investors do. You invest into all weathers. Who is it? Ray Dalio. He has his all weather approach. So it doesn't matter whether we're in a bull market or a bear market or a sideways market or all outcomes. You're trying to set up your portfolio so that it succeeds in all outcomes. That's what I've tried to do with my crypto portfolio. And not just that, like, you don't just need to be a crypto investor. You can invest into all scenarios. So you can have legacy investments as well. But crypto is the fastest way to get wealthy. And no one can argue with that because it's the highest performing market cap. It's the highest performing market in the world, which is awesome. What's this? Doesn't the volatility of coins stop the community growing quickly? Not everyone can invest in hodl DCA. Fiat gives stability on a price across the economy. Yeah, but that's, James, that's why Bitcoin is the savings vehicle for me. I don't try and pay my bills or my petrol with Bitcoin because I could have my monthly expenditure and then Bitcoin goes down 30%. Now I can't meet my bills. So that's why you separate the two. Fiat is your day-to-day living. If you're on a Bitcoin standard, it's your savings. And I teach people, think in 4-year cycle minimum. Because then you go through a halving cycle and generally Bitcoin goes up, hundreds, sometimes thousands of percent within a halving cycle. So if you can think in 4-year cycles and you're going to save, it's your savings plan for at least 4 years, happy days. But you have to separate living expenses, okay, from investment. And that's what I do. Like, get an old sheet of paper, lads, all right? Or if you're fancy like me, do it on the computer, get an Excel. Draw a line down the middle, okay? And all you do is you put all your assets and all your liabilities and then your income. When you know where you stand then, you can say, okay, well, these are all my bills. These are all my cash producing assets. Some people have zero, so you start at zero. That's where you're at. Obviously, the goal is to accumulate more assets than liabilities. That's what financial freedom is. That's, the goal of anyone who wants just to not have to work for money anymore. But you need to find out where you're at, all your liabilities, and start investing. And as it was taught to me, pay yourself first. Here's a little turbo Dinny bomb, we call these. So pay yourself first. So regardless of how much debt you're in, if you always just pay the debt first, you can never get out of the hole. You have to pay yourself first, okay? And then you want to try and get your money into investments. So you're able to start digging yourself out of this hole. So if you're swamped with credit cards and debt and all this stuff, the goal is to try and get rid of all that, okay? Because that's pulling you down. But paying yourself first was something that was always bet into me. I think it was probably Robert Kiyosaki, maybe. I can't actually remember where I heard it. Or it could have been Tony Robbins. He had a book, Money Master the Game. Any of you ever read that? Money Master the Game. Jady. Feckin' huge book, lads. But I remember that was a good book that I read. And I read it a couple of times. And it didn't really teach me anything. I wouldn't bother reading it. Well, I know, it taught me a lot, but it didn't teach me any solutions. It just taught me, oh my God, this game is so rigged. No wonder I can't get ahead. And I'm doing all the things that society told me to do, and I'm still struggling. But and that's why I always started to self-manage my capital myself, self-manage my money and take ownership rather than trying to trust it into other people's hands and I just do the work and not question the system at all. And it sort of did push me to learn about how the system of money works. And then it's only when I look back, I'm like, Dinny, you chased money your whole life. You lived poor, you chased money, you exchanged your time for money, and you never even questioned how money worked. And it wasn't until you start to understand how money works and how you questioned how money works and how you learned how money works that now I can find it much easier to accumulate, keep, and multiply my wealth. And that was a lesson for me anyway, that go down the rabbit hole of how this whole thing works. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, unbelievable book, Ed Dunn. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, Ed. Robert Kiyosaki, I wouldn't say I've read all of his books because he's written a lot of them, but amazing. The only difference between me when I lived in a mobile home and me now that I live in a house with a roof and bricks, the only difference, I have the same head, lads, I have the same brain, the same arms, the only difference is how I think. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad just gets you to think how a rich person thinks, because wealthy people think differently than poor people. And pre-learning I thought like a poor person, and therefore we produce what we think, or we are what we think. And that was the result I got while I'm living in a mobile home. So I definitely would recommend that Rich Dad Poor Dad books. Another good one was The Cash Flow Quadrant by Rich Dad Poor Dad. Really good book about the 4 quadrants, the 4 types of people, the 4 types of investors, and how you can live in all 4 quadrants and what all 4 quadrants have to offer. Amazing teachings in that. Really, really good learnings. Really cool. I suppose Bitcoin's amazing because Bitcoin teaches you everything from politics to how money works to freedom to computing code to, it's so, you learn so much, like, as a Bitcoiner. And that's why it takes a long time to understand it. And, initially we all come in and we look around and we're looking for the next Bitcoin, and it can take a couple of years before you realize, like, crypto is Bitcoin and everything else, think of them like stocks. And they'll probably make you a lot of money, but I wouldn't build a retirement plan on an early startup. Like, would you build your retirement plan on an early startup? You'd be an idiot if you did. Like, fair enough, it could work out. And you could be a multi-millionaire when you retire. But there's a much bigger chance that all your money will be gone because the company went bust. I'm not trying to hate on them because I own loads of altcoins. But just I hate seeing people getting burnt, because with a lot of my consulting, it's with people who are here since 17, here in 16, here in 2018, and they've nothing to show for it. And really they should. They should be in a position to retire and work for fun now and maybe clear their mortgage. But they don't. And it's just because they were short on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and they chased high risk stuff and they got burnt. And now they're having to buy Bitcoin at much higher prices. So for you guys watching Crypto with Dinny, it's free education. Majority of the stuff I do is free. It's just like, fair enough, Bitcoin's 50 grand today. Here's an example. 10 years ago, a tenner spent in Bitcoin 10 years ago is worth 400k today. So a tenner spent in Bitcoin today, what is it worth in 10 years time? Now, it mightn't be 400k. It may not be 400k, okay? But even if it's 30, 50, 100, 2 grand, maybe it's 10 grand. No one knows how well this thing will do in a decade. Nobody expected that their tenner in 2011 would be worth 400 grand. There wasn't a single person would have believed that could have happened. Otherwise, we'd all done it. Why wouldn't we have spent a tenner if we thought there was a chance to be worth 400? Nobody had a clue. So, be careful when you think you know. That's all I'd say. But, so we're at 50 grand today. 4 years time, we probably won't be at 50 grand. So if you have to wait 4 years to learn your lesson, in 3 or 4 years time, for your same few bob, you're saving 100 quid a month into Bitcoin, you're going to get much less Bitcoin for your 100 quid in 4 years and 3 years than you're getting today. That's why the crashes are amazing. That's why I love them. Anyway, drop of whiskey's nearly gone here. I'm going to jump off. It's been good to see us all on. Thanks for hitting the like. If you haven't, give it a nice strong press. And guys, if you're on YouTube, consider jumping on to Crypto with Dinny on the YouTube channel, because I am trying to build it up and get a bit more traction with it, just because there's less hassle with the scammers and the scams. People are getting DM'd and getting their pictures screenshotted and all this crap. Like, it's terrible. YouTube is a little bit better. So I'm live on YouTube now at the moment. Hello, my YouTubers. What's the crack? Thanks for hitting the like button. Talk to you all soon. Remember, Christmas is coming. Orange pill your family and friends. And that just means teach them a little bit about Bitcoin. You don't have to shill them it. You don't tell them they have to buy it. Sailor had an amazing interview with that reporter in America, wasn't it, named Tucker Carlson. And it was just like, for absolute no-coiners, people who haven't a clue, this is why you need Bitcoin. Amazing little video. I did share it, so if you can find it, maybe share it with your friends and family. They can watch it over Christmas. You don't have to pick one or the other. If you're all in on the euro, maybe dip a toe into Bitcoin. Just maybe, just in case. Because remember, no one thought the tenner would be worth 400 grand in 10 years. Just like today, no one thinks Bitcoin's going to be worth much more. That's why they're all buying every other startup. And we'll see how that goes, like, because Bitcoin likes just to melt faces. Especially over the longer time frame. Guys, have an awesome day. Thanks for being here. Awesome evening. What time is it? Jeez, it's nearly 10. I think I'm going to have one more, one little drop. I'll have a second here because I've half a can of ginger ale left. So have a great evening and we'll talk to you soon. Dinny out. Thanks guys. Finish.